All right. Messages and notifications put out there. We're actually gonna take a break from 40K a little bit today. We're gonna try, well, technically, we can still use these for 40K, and I kind of plan to. I kind of want to really finish these Screamers, because then we are done our Spearhead team, which is very key. And I think I can honestly finish them today, because it's not a lot of work, technically. One of the key things we needed to do right now is get the bases prepped, because by the time we are done the Screamers, the bases will most likely be dry, or at least close to dry. So the process here, very simple. I use golden coarse pumice texture paste, and I just apply it very thinly to the surface, and you kind of want to manipulate it down to being thin. So it dries quickly, because you don't need a ton of texture, you just need a little texture, honestly. Once it dries, it's basically pre-primed to be able to take contrast, which is when I apply the Argos Dunes. What's up, Rax? You getting ready to show up to RGT's house and have him go, I don't want to go. I'm bracing myself for it. Sit up on stage and just be like, yeah, Sean didn't show. You watched a pay-per-view of a wrestling frickin' special event and then felt really sad, so we decided to not go. Got to make sure I got everything packed too from here. I got to figure out where I put those pins that I made from forever ago. Picking them up at 5 a.m. I mean, you guys got a distance. It's an hour 14 from where me and John are. John and I. $40K tournament sounds weird, but I'm still going to try to do it. Oh, that's the one thing I forgot to do last night. I got to check it in a second. Yeah, you got the horrible traffic. I think I'll leave around, I don't know, 11 o'clock maybe a little before. Get, you know, some sleep in a little bit. I'm doing night, or artisans. I'm doing it. I gotta learn, like, dude, I'm still having the biggest issue. I'm still not seeing statistically. Oh, dude, flight stands, baby. Getting that texture on them. Statistically, okay, so, like, I feel like everything I play caves to Weight of Fire. And then everything I deal with is Weight of Fire. And then I tried to create Weight of Fire in my team, right? Like, the whole premise was, oh, well, my Terminators are gonna fire 40 times into you with, like, strength 5 attacks, full rerolls, blah, blah, blah. Like, I tried to create the environment of Weight of Fire with my Terminators. And literally shot into a squad of 5 Terminators with 10, and it wasn't until I cast the final, like, spell in that army, in that squad, that I managed to wipe the final Terminator out. Meanwhile, like, I get attacked, and at the top end of the Weight of Fire attacks, I'm like, well, that's my last guy. He dead. It just feels so bad.
Poggers.
So, like, I have to get used to Magnus until we get other detachments. I have to. I just have to. After seeing Pariah Nexus rules, which we might make a video on to go over, battle line's important. It's not that important, is the trick. So, like, I can still use the cultists. We are working on Screamers right now, because I'm trying to finish the last of my Spearhead models for AOS. Because I play Disciples of Tzeentch. I have no plans on changing, because I don't want to spend money in the AOS spectrum. I'd rather just use what I have access to, because it works in 40k as well. I already have the Kyriks, I already have the Shield Bearer Zangors, I already have the Magister on disc. I just need 3 Screamers, because I already have 3 Flamers painted. I have more Flamers to paint, but those aren't important right now. Those were important back when allies didn't require battle line. But now that they do, I have no reason to use my Flamers. We just got to put a little bit more down. We are currently texture pasting the bases for the flight bases. These are actually kind of custom flight bases because I hate the clear plastic ones. So we're using the stocks from the clear plastic flight base, and then we're using actual 32s because that's actually the size of what a flight base stand is. I'd rather have the texture and the fun stuff under them than just a clear plastic thing that looks kind of shitty. Yeah. The Screamers shouldn't take long. We should be done them fairly quickly. I bought an extremely hyper chemical glue the other day. because I'm getting sick and tired of the magnets that I glue to the bottom of these bases to hold them to their carrying trays. I'm so tired of them just falling off, man. They fall off so easily. I've used so many different glue types that everyone suggests, like Loctite gel and all that. Oh, it'll work, it'll work, it'll work. It holds perfectly fine. And then on a day where the temperature shifts slightly, I just hear a bunch of popping sounds in my case. And I'm like, well, that's like 5 magnets disconnected. Excellent. So I was at the art store and I was just looking through their multimedia glue section, and they just had this one glue there that was like, yeah, use this, wait 48 hours, whatever you put it on, it'll never come off. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'm using this. We're doing this thing. All right. Bases will dry while we're painting the models, and then we gotta glue them to it. To the unfamiliar, screamers are basically stingrays, which, I mean, you know they're powerful. They took out Steve Irwin. They are eldritch as hell, with tons of little horns and eyes. So yeah, flight stands, and you just get your little hover creature. Nice. So the key thing we want to do here is we're going to prep all of them with where we want the green, because I already airbrushed all of the flesh tone the other day. Well, Eldar are called Eldari, but everyone still refers to them as Eldar. Because, I mean, they changed the name, and hundreds of people who've been playing for decades went, no. It's cool, you can print the new name on all your books. We're calling them Eldar. We're calling them what they're called. There are already games that exist on computer and console where they refer to them as the Eldar. We're not making the shift. What's up, Thiago? So we're gonna get the So Flat paint, this yellow that I have. We're just gonna hit all the places I want to make green. Which is a lot of these horns. We might need a smaller brush too, because we want the eyes to go green as well. Eldar are good though. Eldar are really strong. Any army right now that can control dice rolls, massively powerful. It feels so oppressive when I play against them. I have fought so many Eldar and even Sisters of Battle. And dude, it sucks. It sucks so much. Because you get into combat with them and you're thinking like, oh, it's up to the dice whether this works or not. And it always feels like it comes down to they make the roll that matters. Because they're like, oh, this one weapon, this one attack will kill if I get a 6. And then they just have a 6 sitting in their fate dice. And it's over. Like, at that point, you just look at it, you're like, well, I guess I'm picking up this unit. Because it sucks so much, man. It's got to be a wild feeling, like, knowing you're going to win a battle. Whereas me out here, I'm like, oh, all the RNG stats are stacked in my favor. I get so many rerolls and so many benefits. I can't wait to destroy... Oh, I rolled really poorly twice. Good. Like, dude, rerolling 1s into 1s feels great for me. Feels so good. It's my favorite thing in the world, trust me. Rolling a 1 and being like, well, at least I got a reroll. Hey, look, another 1. I can't use this brush. This brush is falling apart. We're going to throw it out, probably. I love these brushes because they last a while and they're super cheap. Glad I found them at my local store. How's everyone doing though? I posted the tournament list I'm taking. I posted the Thousand Suns list because it's a weird tournament, is what I'll say. It's 1,500 points, which that's not that problematic. It actually is not the worst to go 1,500. But they don't say which rule set we're using, and then when I asked them if it's going to be Pariah, they were like, no, it's not Pariah. But then also decided not to tell me which rule set we were in. So now I'm like, oh, is it going to be Rulebook? Is it going to be frickin' Leviathan? Like, what's happening? 'Cause I just don't know. And top that all off with the fact that the information for the tournament claims that the last round is only going to be a half hour long, which if you're familiar with 40K, a half hour is like setting up and then one dice roll. And then you both shake hands, and that's it. It's the end of the game. Talk it out. I don't know why that's the case. And then I looked at the Underworlds tournament, and the last round is also a half an hour. So I don't know if it's something clashing with the setup for the convention. I don't know if it's something where they were like, oh yeah, we don't have a lot of time. We'll allot you whatever we can give you. Because it's weird that it starts at like 1. 9 times out of 10, all the tournaments I do that go to 3 rounds start at like 10 a.m. tops. So the fact that they're only able to really get those tables, I guess, around 1 o'clock makes it feel like maybe the venue kind of screwed them over a little bit with timing. Which I could see, because there's a big laundry list of tabletop stuff at this convention, but it's like old stuff. It's like Settlers of Catan and all that. Those are the games that seem to be getting priority. It's like the super quick, easy to pick up board games, which I could understand. These models are called Screamers. They are Thousand Suns, technically, but Chaos Demons more so than that. In AOS, where they are also used in Age of Sigmar, they are Disciples of Tzeentch. They are cavalry-style, fast-moving units that just do damage. Like, they go somewhere, they hit with decent stats and decent damage lines, and then they just hopefully kill things. I think they're set up normally to be able to just run into a unit and do mortals, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think a lot of people use them, though. They're okay on their own, but mechanically in 40K, they are best when attached to this guy here. This is a Fate Skimmer. It is a massive model that we are not painting yet. The Fate Skimmer provides them the ability to basically get picked up at some point and then get put back down later. In Deep Strike from reserve. Basically getting a re-Deep Strike system, or what is now being called Uppy Downy. Uppy Downy. That's probably what prevents people from wanting to use these, because in a 40K situation, something like this coming in from Deep Strike, you have to bring it in kind of the turn before your opponent, or the turn before you go, because then you're able to move and assault and all that, and it's fine. Which means you hopefully get the mortals from passing near or over things. But yeah, you'll rarely see these. The thing is, 40K now has Combat Patrol, and AOS is getting a version of Combat Patrol called Spearhead. And the Disciples of Tzeentch, which is who I play, need 3 of them. 3 of these things. That's why we're working on it here. Sort of. I'm not too sure. Back when I played in 3rd, the Eldari players nearby didn't use like webway gates and stuff. It was mostly just warp spiders and things like that. They never really used like the big things. I only ever saw kind of just basic models. And my best friend who plays Eldari only played Court of the Young King. I gotta reassess my seating position and where my stuff is on this table. It's kind of blocking my hands. Yeah, he played Court of the Young King, which is all Phoenix Lords, usually an Avatar. Basically a bunch of the different aspects, which he always put emphasis on Banshees and Reapers. Apparently Reapers are making a comeback because their abilities are really nice for their pricing, supposedly. I'm unfamiliar. I haven't been faced down with them. And as far as I know, a couple of the people going to this convention over the weekend who are already signed up with their lists, I'm going to be facing potentially Astra Militarum, so Imperial Guard. I'm also going to be facing just like an ocean of kind of basic people in a way. Like orcs, I think it's Green Tide orcs, which that'll be the first Green Tide I got hit with. I've fought regular orcs and I've fought Bully Boys, which are kind of like pseudo horde, but mostly for the larger orcs, the mega knobs and stuff like that. Spent a good chunk of last night going over all my army rules to make sure I don't miss anything. Completely forgot that I can't put cultists in rhinos for some reason. I guess it's because they have scout and you don't want to be able to scout rhinos on chaos. It's a little too powerful. So my rhino mostly exists to fit Ahriman's squad in, because it's a fun little damage bomb you can pull off. By just having a rhino with Ahriman and a squad of flamers in it show up next to something and be like, hey, you're dead. Pop out, rip your armor off, and then just bake you with frickin' way too many flamers. No. John usually rides up on his own. I'll ride up on my own. That way we have 2 cars. Sometimes he leaves at weirder times. I gotta verify with him where we need to go for our badges and stuff. Still hasn't told me. He kind of hinted that there's like a secret room I gotta find. Like it's one of the rooms supposedly in the hotel. You knock on the door and tell them your name. They'll give you your badge and any pamphlets and stuff you need. I think you can still take webway gates. Most people don't take terrain anymore. Noctilith Crown from Chaos has seen some use. Specifically in a weird combo that's kind of dickish, I would say, is how I would describe that. Specifically, it's Chaos Space Marines And it's, what is it? Frickin' cultists. Because the Noctilith Crown provides a 4+ invulnerable. So you just have a ton of cultists running around with 4+ invulnerables. Like, we're talking like 120 cultists, man. Because they're so cheap. They're so stupidly cheap that you can take 120 of them and then like a tank or two, and it's perfectly fine. I'm actually starting to question whether or not I'm going to be able to finish these today. I thought I was, and then I started seeing all the little detail that I really wanted to touch on. No, yeah, I went to a 4v4 tournament because team tournaments are becoming a pretty big thing now. I actually really like the format, too. And the first team we went against was a guy who was internationally... Like, this is weird, okay? So I didn't go to, like, a big tournament. I didn't go to something massive. This was a tournament that was the first time the person was running it decided to run it, right? He wanted to see if he could run a tournament. That was the whole thing. He just put this up and was like, whatever, we'll see if it works. And what ended up happening was the first team we fought, 2 of the people on that team were actually internationally placed top-ranking players in the world. Like, we fought one of the top-ranking Drakari players and one of the top-ranking Thousand Sun players. I was playing Knights. I'm still, like... I'm so far behind strategically in this game. I need to learn so much more about positioning, understanding power level variation, knowing where to apply saturation fire, all that stuff. I need to figure it out. It took me years to figure it out back in 3rd, and then I just maintained that going forward into 4th and 5th. And then I was just like, all right, cool, this is great. Now I'm like starting on step 1 again. And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing people who know the game use the stuff I used to use. Like, in terms of knowledge of like, oh, well, this plus this equals dead squads left and right. This is hammer, this is anvil, this is, you know, like, they know all that. It's built into their minds at this point. Meanwhile, I'm out here just like, huh. Well, I'm about to dump 100 shots into you. This should work, right? Oh, it didn't work. Oh. Well, don't know what to do now. And that just seems to be the repetition for me right now. Because this kill team I picked up super quick, super easy. You know, it's kill team. Not exactly mind-blowing. It's paced well enough that I strategically, or I know the strategy. Like, I look at it and I'm like, oh, I get this. This is very easy to understand and, you know, manipulate to my whims. 40k just screws on me so hard. The positioning, a lot of the blocking gimmicks, there's so much stuff in it where I'm like, oh, that sucks. I should have realized that before moving to here. And the thing is, I kind of feel like my mind is catching on it, but like the critic in me is like keeping a lot of my plays at bay. I did a test game the other day. And during the test game, I was like, all right, I have this many points to allow this unit over here a double move, because that's what my army does. My immediate thought was, I need to do it. I need to move them up to the wall. That was my immediate thought. And then the way it played out is that I 100% didn't do that at all. Like, I was just like, oh, I have to move. And then I just didn't. Because part of me kind of criticized that to death, which is something I do. Where I was like, oh, but if I move, I'm going to lose out on this. I'm going to put myself in an open position for this, which literally going into the game, I already told myself I'm going to lose this unit. The whole point of this unit is to go over there, and when he tries to charge me with something big, he's going to hit something I don't care about. And then I'm going to have a bunch of stuff I am okay with using on killing him, like right next to it, and being like, well, I'm going to wipe out your big unit. Here we go. And then I just wreck it. So, like, I pep talked myself into knowing that that's what I wanted to do. I saw the moment in turn 1. I told myself that that's what I needed to do, and then I didn't do it. So, like, I'm almost there. I'm almost to the point where my brain is accepting of, like, the oddity of my strategy, right? And then it comes down to the part that's always the biggest struggle for players of 40k. Learning what all of the opponent possibilities can be. That is like the biggest struggle of all time, is realizing you have X amount of factions and units you need to learn. Some of them are very straightforward. Some of them have very similar abilities that you can kind of name certain ways, like uppy, downy, vect, all that stuff. But then, like, once you get past that point, it's so rough, man. And I mean, if you're just getting back into it, you're probably feeling it as well. And they just changed vect, so I'm actually debating doing my dumb build again that involves Kairos, because he's my only vect character. And a lot of people are saying vect is way too strong now. And since you don't know, maybe you don't know, vect is the ability to manipulate costs on command points. The stratagems and stuff. It's the ability to increase the cost to your opponent's stratagems. Vect is super strong now because it's an aura that's consistent. It no longer is limited to only increasing the cost of battle line, or whatever, battle tactic, I think is the name of it, is the type of ploy that you could adjust before. Now it's just everything. As long as the unit that's getting targeted is within 12 inches of you, it'll all cost 1 extra command point. And Kairos, pretty durable, pretty capable of being close range to enemies. And he vex, which is great. Why would Magnus need to pivot now? Did they change so that monsters need to pivot? Or, because I'd have to double check it, but if I'm not mistaken, oh, and by the way, if it's, I don't know if the Pariah Nexus rules are what we're using for the tournament. I don't know. But to my understanding, the general gist is, if you have a round base, you pivot on the base. And you don't need to expend points to pivot. If it's like a round base, which Magnus is. It's oval bases, I thought, which actually means warpsmiths need to pay to pivot. Like these guys. These guys need to pay to pivot. Yeah, Magnus is circular, man. Dude, and some of the nuance between factions is insane. Learning what grudge tokens were for Votann is like, oh my god. So freaking wild. Like, it's easy enough with things like Fate dice and Faith dice, with the two variations of practically the same thing. I think if there's a Votann player at this 1,500 point tournament, he's going to be very strong. Because technically, 1,500 points is the equivalent of a 2,000 point game for allies and benefits, which means Votann players are going to get the 2,000 point level of grudge tokens, which is a lot of grudge tokens for a lot less units on the field. So far, I haven't seen a list that looks like it's Votann. A lot of people put their list ups already, and I think I've seen 2 orcs, or 1 orc at least, maybe 2 IG. Well, AP doesn't bother me. Almost everything I have has an invulnerable save. That's probably the best part about Thousand Suns, is all the armies who are like, dude, I have so much AP to try to kill, like, big monsters and, you know, strong units that have good armor saves, like Space Marines and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. 4+ invuln. Have fun with that. At best, you can AP 1. Enjoy. Now, if only I didn't feel the need to bring Magnus. I think that's going to be the core of what happens in the Codex. Whenever they drop the Thousand Suns Codex, it needs to be in a way where enough people go, hey, I don't need Magnus. Like, that's... I got into Thousand Suns because of the interesting concepts, but just finding out that, like, meta-wise, if you don't take Magnus, you're not going to have a good time. They're so hard to play without him. Like, you bring so many different units, and then you find out, like, oh, I don't have enough anti-tank. Oh, I don't have enough anti-infantry. Like, you just don't bring enough to the table to really be, like, a scary force to be reckoned with without Magnus on the field. And it's kind of annoying. Because I do like variation. I do like the ability to be like, oh, yo, let me bring these models instead. I might be able to get away with using things like Forge Fiends and stuff. I don't know. You have to, like, build so weirdly. And the problem is you still have the issue of almost everything you have battle line is massively expensive. It's just way too expensive. It's such a wild feeling putting down my Soulforged units on a field and seeing so many more things on the field than what I get for my Thousand Suns. Like, I get so much more stuff. I don't have nearly as many characters, so I'm not that worried about assassination. It's just such an odd time, man. But yeah, Kill Team Data Slate today, apparently. Out of nowhere. Just out of the blue. Tiniest data slate. Scouts get an extra character, because they're definitely an underwhelming team. I'm glad I held off doing the Scout overview video. Kind of wanted to see what changes they were going to get. Because I feel like I saw them at a major tournament after they were released, and they just did not do well. What the hell? Dude, what the hell? I never touched the brush down here. Why is there yellow already down here? What, with the balanced data slate? The balanced data slate is actually kind of minor. So, key things. It looks like Felgor got another nerf. Felgor used to have specialty agents that had one extra wound than normal, which made them sort of like mini leaders. Well, all of those that aren't the leader are all now the same wound rating as the rest of the Felgor. And I think they reduced some other damage potential that they get. It's not good. I have the Felgor. I haven't used them all that much. I kind of struggle to see what they're supposed to do. A little bit, even though I know they used to do really well. But now with these changes, I'm like, oh god. What do these guys actually do now? Like, what's their focal point? Like, the whole thing was supposed to be that they survive, and I don't feel like that's the case anymore. Scouts, they're 2 units that use hunting knives. The hunting knives are +1 damage on their stat lines, I believe. I can't remember if it's normal, crit, or both. I knew they were +1 damage, though, because that is a big issue with scouts. Scouts don't have good damage, so they need to find pockets to put better damage in. See what else. Votan, a lot more durable. The Hearthkin Salvagers just got the ability to reduce incoming damage. I think you reduce 1 damage off of 1 dice of incoming damage if you're on an objective. It reduces it to 3, so it's not like amazing, but you're able to at least help yourself out with a little bit more survivability. And then in particular, something that's crazy is that the Thane got this ability called Force Field. And the way it works is if you're about to take a single dice roll of 4 damage or more, it's negated. It's just fully negated. You get 1 instance of this, I think, per shooting phase, or per shooting, like, sequence. You basically can just point at something that hits you for 4 damage or more and just go, no. Bad. So yeah, Votan got some durability boost, which is nice. Hearthkin Salvagers definitely need that type of stuff. So if you're a Hearthkin fan, you got yourself some fun benefits. Nice. What else was there? Oh, Legionary list building for tournaments just got a lot better. The limit for icons, or for marks, is no longer a specific limit for list building. You can build your list however the hell you feel like it with whatever marks you want. The on-field list is what is manipulated by mark differences. Can't have Nurgle and Tzeentch, can't have Slaanesh and Khorne. So there's value in taking a lot of units that are probably undivided on your roster, and then to take a couple very unique units where you're like, oh, hell yeah, I would want this in Slaanesh format. Like, for me, I would be pretty happy if I went like an Anointed that was Khorne and Slaanesh. That way I could have an adaptable, faster version of himself. Like, you get some cool stuff. It's mostly for list building, for, what is it? Spec Ops and Match Play. That's the only real place that matters. Pathfinder's got a bit of a nerf. I think it's mostly because of the new rules, like the Beta Decima stuff. Oh, that was the other thing. Felgor. There's a couple units that have Relentless. That got downgraded. It is now Ceaseless instead. That is massively terrible for a team that doesn't hit that well. You have to roll, I think, like 4s to hit with them. And getting like full rerolls was great. Now you can only reroll 1s. That's just, The bracket for failure with them in combat is just too big now. Cultist didn't get touched. That was an interesting turn of events. Warp Coven didn't get touched. Hearthkin didn't get touched. Let me pull up the actual data slate. Because the Pathfinders did get a bit of a reduction. Boop, 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 doop. Kill team. So no new core rules, no new equipment rules, nothing major for like the top end, right? Compendium, no updates, of course. That's how that works. Vet Guard, none of these guys got touched. Pathfinders were the first to get touched. The Recon Drone can only reroll 1 of your attack dice instead of any or all. So the Recon Drone got a little bit of a nerf. Drone Controller Pathfinder, for the hazardous area rules, he is still limited to within 4 inches of your drop zone, whereas I think in most other maps he can go really far. And then he also has close quarter specific stuff. You cannot set up the drone operative as specified. Instead, at the end of the scouting step, it is drone operative is wholly within your drop zone, conceal order. It can perform a free normal move and operate hatch. So he gets kind of that passive operate hatch function. And then recon sweep strategic ploy, you cannot use this ploy during the first turning point. So bit of a nerf across the board for the Pathfinders. Then yeah, the Legionary, you can now do any kind of mark on your list as long as you don't field certain marks together. That's about it. Phobos, fine. Blooded got the Gellerpox treatment. The Traitor Ogren can no longer receive cover from light cover, as well as units that are 15 health or less. So he just has to be a little bit better protected. Gellerpox infected, just killing how they are. Hunter Clade, most of these guys are just all the same. Void Dancer troop, pretty solidified. Wormblade, pretty solidified. Warp Coven have their own page now of all their changes, so they're pretty solidified. Farstalker Kinbands stuck where they are. Intercession, Navy Breachers, Hyrotech is stuck. Kasserkin stuck. Exaction Squad had a bit of a buff, to my understanding, I think. Or at least some changes. Terminal Decree. Each time a friendly Exaction Squad operative making a shooting attack against an enemy operative within 4 inches of it, or each time a friendly Exaction Squad gunner operative makes a shooting attack regardless of distance. So the gunner gets the full distance. I think Decree, let me take a look. I'm trying to remember what Decree was. I think Decree required you to mark a target, and then you would get rerolls against the target. And I think they're increasing it because that required a lot of skill, and what would normally happen is if you decreed a target and your opponent got initiative, you would just back off with that target, and then they would lose the ability to bounce the decree. It sucked so much. It was a massive burden strategically to people who used the Exaction Squad. So Waha probably hasn't updated yet. So Terminal Decree. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Exaction Squad makes a shooting attack against an enemy operative within 4 inches of it, roll. Okay, no, this is the different one. What's up, go for it. So, what's this? Oh. So Terminal Decree allowed you to reroll one of your attack dice within 4 inches. So the change makes it so your gunner doesn't need to be within 4 inches, which is good. It still kind of screws over your sniper, but it gives your gunner with his grenade launcher, maybe a heavy stubber gunner, just benefits that are useful. Because they're not supposed to play close. Dispense Justice strategic ploy. You can reroll any or all of your attack dice results of one result instead. Dispense Justice. That might actually be a nerf. Let me take a look. Till the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Exaction Squad operative fights in combat in an activation in which it has not moved more than its movement characteristic. In the roll attack dice step, you can reroll one. Oh, no, it's a buff. So apparently it's for fighting, which is, alright, that's weird. It's fine though, I guess. So you get to reroll all of one type of dice result instead of just one dice, which that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But the Hearthkin Salvagers get the real big benefit. If they're within 2 inches of an objective marker in the resolve successful hit step of a combat, you can subtract 1 from the damage inflicted from one of your opponent's successful hits to a minimum of 3. So if I hit you with 4 damage off a crit, I think, resolve success. Yeah, this can go off of crits. If you take a crit from a bolter, you can reduce it to 3, basically. Or anything higher, you'll reduce by 1, which is great. And that's all of them. They all now have that resistance, which is really nice. It's 1 dice from the total result of fighting. So this is fighting, and so it's mostly fighting. It's not from shooting, actually. Okay, so this is all fight. Each time a friendly Hearthkin operative fights in combat, yeah, so purely from fighting. Okay. Which, that's pretty good. There's a lot of really strong fighters, and Hearthkin have issues in close range. The Thane, though, Force Field. The first time an attack dice inflicts 4 or more damage on this operative during the battle, ignore. So it's once, I'm guessing. The first time. So your opponent kind of has to choose wisely. If he has a thing that does 4 damage from a distance, and he's pretty sure you're not going to be able to save against it, he would have to hit you with that first, and then hit you with higher damage after. So it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, the Felgor got screwed over. The Flux Spray, the Mangler, and the Vandal are no longer relentless. They're ceaseless. No, there's not going to be any change to that. They might overall change stuff in 3.0, but they already said they don't really want to touch the Compendium teams all that much more. Gnarlscar and Mangler lose one from their wounds characteristics, so you lose your helpful extra wound characters. And then Reckless Determination, Strategic Ploy. Each time a shooting attack is made against a Felgor operative is not ready and is not in cover. So it's just clarification. I think that's the one that gives you a guaranteed save or like more saves or something. And then the Inquisitorial Agents and Chaos Cults no longer get touched this season, or this arc. And then Scouts, the first of Season 3 to get changes. You now can take an additional operative as long as it's not a sergeant. And you can now get 1 to both damage characteristics of the Combat Blade on the Hunter and Warrior operatives. Which, let me take a look. Scout Squad. Hunter. Combat Blade is a 3/5, so that's a 4/6 now. Yeah, that's where your damage is. Where's the Warriors? I think the Warriors get the chance at going Blade Pistol. Yeah, 4/6. That's where your damage is now. You want Combat Blades against bigger units. It's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen that the 3.0 is going to bring back Compendium balance, but that is where you would expect them to do it. Where maybe they solidify the concept of like buffs lasting between turns and stuff like that. Because honestly, they should last between turns. Buffs and debuffs should last pretty much until the person who cast them goes again. It creates a nice layer of strategy to the game that is just so much better. Because it's so punishing to have to sequence certain characters to activate to get the most out of your attack potential against squads that have more units to activate than you. Like, that might be a balance thing, but it's also kind of crap. Like, if I really want, like, a reroll when I attack something and I know you're going to move it up, it really sucks if you don't move it up until I'm already fully activated. Because then what do? I have to kind of move the unit up with the reroll potential and then activate it and hope next turn goes well, because I would have the buff for next turn. It doesn't feel as bad with like no counterplay. Because I think at this point there really is no real counterplay to Horde armies. Horde armies get to force you to have to activate in certain sequences. You really don't want to do that. So yeah, that's the hope, that third solidifies a lot of rules to be universal. Buffs and debuffs lasting until the next time it's used or the unit that used it goes again. Stuff like that. It works in so many good spots too. The Legionary with their Sorcerer buffing a unit with Lethal Brutal. It works out so much better because then next turn the Sorcerer doesn't have to go first. So you get like more interesting concepts such as getting the Heavy Gunner to do it again, like to fire with those benefits again. And then having the Sorcerer go to move the buff to like a melee unit, and then having the melee go right after. You can sort of maximize damage potentials and strategy adjustment when you can kind of control when buffs happen, while still providing the counterplay of someone being like, oh, well, you buffed with your Sorcerer, and the next turn I'll be able to get to your Sorcerer and potentially kill it, meaning the buff will go away before you can use it again. Like, that's kind of beautiful. Because then that just helps all icon bearers and stuff. It might be cool if they make it. Yeah, dude, I love the neon. Did you see my Venom crawlers, man? Ah. And then the brother of it. Dude, there's a tournament going on over the weekend up at Oaks, PA that I'm going to be at for the convention I'm going to. I'm bringing my 1,000 Suns to it. It's a 1,500 point tournament. And then there's an Underworlds tournament on Sunday. I'm hoping they might have a vendor that sells 40K stuff up at this convention too. I wonder if we're going to get like decent discounts on things. A lot of times vendors will go to these conventions and sell for like 10-15% off just to try to like offload things real quick. If that's the case, I got to pick up another squad of Gene Stealers if they have them. Potentially a Biophagus, because I am leaning into it. I'm leaning into Biosanctic, and I do have an idea for my Biophagus that I think might work. Not fully sure. Oh, shit. Dude, you just gotta find the speed. The thing you can do at the speed that you like to work at that makes it quick. That's all I really try to figure out, is just like, I don't really want to paint too much. So how can I paint in a way where I don't need to paint too much? That's why these guys were airbrushed, man. Like, the moment I realized I could just airbrush all the demons. There's no way the music's done now. Oh no, we're good. Get them done super quick. I feel like my goal with my paint schemes is to just figure out how much I can get done of it in airbrush, so I don't need to do a lot more by hand. Like, that's like the whole goal. It makes me really want to clean up my 3.0 airbrush, or the 0.3 airbrush that I have, because I messed that one up by accident, and then I just like stopped thinking about using it because I figured I wasn't really going to fix it in time for anything. I kind of want to get it back up and running, because if I can just do the 0.5 stuff early, get all the full coverage things, and be like, oh, we're done, I can switch to the 0.3 and then just get like really cool details done. be able to hit like a lot more narrow areas of models. No, yeah, Showcase will do that. I think Born to Game does it. Days and Nights does it a little differently. They put stuff on sale that they're trying to get rid of, which is how I got a really cheap. I also need an Achilles freaking Ridge Runner because I got to build another Achilles, which I don't want to do. Those things take forever to build, despite being extremely tiny. I need another Achilles so I can make it a mortar Achilles because I need a backline Achilles. You can just sit on my objective. Surround it with Clamovises. My idea with the Sanctus is that you're able to put a Biophagus in a squad of Neophytes. Which you're probably like, that's garbage, why would you do that? And I fully agree with you. It is garbage. There's no reason to put a Biophagus in a squad of Neophytes. Unless... there is an enhancement that provides the Biophagus and his squad the benefit of Infiltrate. And I am constantly trying to figure out a way to body block whole armies. So if I know my opponent doesn't really have Infiltrate or anything like that, but he does want to like get across the field in a turn, I take a 20-man squad of Neophytes, and then I put the Biophagus leader in it with that enhancement, the Infiltrator enhancement. And it's an adaptable unit, because he'll have the enhancement on him, and if I ever go like, I don't want to do that this round, I can put him in with one of my Aberrant squads. I think I'm only going to run one Abominant, and the Abominant will have... I want to say he's going to have the damage increase ability, although I'll probably give that to the Patriarch whenever I get one of those. I think that'd be a fun combo. So then the goal becomes my Abominant is always part of at least one Aberrant squad, and then the second Aberrant squad is open with no leader, which not the best. You don't normally want to run that, because then they lose out on, you know, some of their key benefits. The Abominant gives them fights first. They provide everyone in the squad with -1 to wound rolls for higher strength weapons. The thing is, they're toughness 6. There's not a lot of weapons that are higher than that in strength. So I don't think I'm going to need to worry about that as much. And in the situations where I do need to worry about that a bit, I don't think I put the Biophagus in with the Neophytes. Right? Like, I think that already plays itself out that way. So the Biophagus would then go in with the other Aberrant squad, giving them Infiltrate instead. We'll hopefully put them up. And then I think the idea there is I'm supposed to have... I'm going to try to go with 3 squads of Pure Strain Gene Stealers, because they're not expensive and they are amazing at melee. Which means in armies that are trying to get across the field and get in my face, The neophytes that are infiltrated all the way up will have 3 squads of pure strain gene stealers behind them. 1 hopefully with a patriarch. I'm going to have 2 trucks that's going to have 2 full-size squads, hopefully, of acolytes. This is all pie in the sky thinking. I'm going to try to only run 1 Sanctus, but if I can avoid doing the Sanctus, I will. But Sanctuses, the new rules for the Sanctuses, make them so strong. I need to compare them to their old rules, because I think they only used to just have damage increases and some deployment shenanigans. Now they actually get, like, extra moves. What would I recommend in Eldar? Like, okay, are you trying to be, like, absolutely meta? And that's not me being, like, insulting, like, oh, another meta slave. Like, what are you trying to aim for? Is there a list you might want to build? Because I think it used to be that wraiths were the way to go. Like, not, is wraith the right term? No. What was it? I'm trying to remember their names now. Like the Guardian models, they're Terminator style units. That used to be the way to rock it, but that changed a bit due to like points and how dev wounds shifted and all that. Like, what are you trying to aim for to play with? Because honestly, you could technically build for anything, although the current existence and detachment rules for the Aldari, you should try to aim for 2K. And yeah, that guy loves Wraith Knights. A lot of people like Wraith Knights. Wraith Knights are cool. They're cool. Aldari. Oh, you want to go? Do you want to go Wraith Guards or do you want to go other things? So what a lot of people do is they'll take very specific units that are like kind of elite in their own way. I see a lot of people use Scorpions because Scorpions get, I want to say, Infiltrate. And Infiltrate is very powerful because it prevents people from making it upfield against you. And you can always just hide them behind buildings and be obnoxious. Because they're actually really good in combat if you don't kill them. Like, I tried to range down a squad of, like a small squad of Scorpions with my Venom Crawlers, which statistically speaking should have happened. Everything about the stat lines, the AP, the damage output, the amount of attacks, the sustain, the lethal, all the things that I had going on them, they should have killed both squads of Scorpions, which is exactly what I want, because Venom Crawlers increase their total attack amount based on killing an entire unit in a phase. And I didn't want to waste my other shots on them because I needed to shoot them at other things. So I was like, oh, this will work. And then it didn't. I got both squads down to, I think, 1 person or 2 people. That was 5-man units taking basically the equivalent of 2 autocannons worth of shots. Like 2 6-shot autocannons worth of attacks. And they survived. So, absolutely wild. So you want mobility, tanks, and support? Well, so a fun thing you can do, and it's a little obnoxious, one of the people at the store uses this as an ability. He uses it as his method of play. So he runs an avatar. Avatar of Cain is actually really powerful. They're horrifyingly quick. They're very damaging. There's not a lot you're doing against an Avatar of Cain that's going to possibly keep you around if it can get within range. Now, that also means when he charged my Warpsmith and hit me a bunch of times, and then my Warpsmith, I think, needed 6+ saves. It boiled down to, I want to say, 2. I think he split his attacks. He split most of his attacks into the Venom Crawler, and then put 2 attacks into the Warpsmith because it was enough damage per attack to kill the Warpsmith. So he figured it would just work, right? Because he got rerolls and all that as Aldari. It's fine. I assumed my Warpsmith was dead as well, but his history. History has told me that my warpsmiths roll really well for some reason, and I don't understand why. So he rolled into my warpsmith first to try to kill it, and figured it'd be fine. So I needed 2 6+ saves, and guess what? I got them. My warpsmith survived for a turn. And then I think one tapped his Autrarch that he sent in. My warpsmiths do more work than most of my army. It's kind of sad. I actually don't need to make... I just need to make the back spikes glow. That's it. So there's a trick you can do with the avatar of Cain and a Farseer. So you kind of want to get a Farseer. You want to snag yourself a Farseer because they get this ability to buff a unit with like really good benefits. And your whole purpose is to basically buff the avatar and then have it run around doing things. So you have to kind of keep it, I think, within like 12 inches of the avatar. Sort of. So you have to kind of daisy chain the guardians with the Farseer, so that you always have the distance you need to be able to buff the avatar. I need to look up what the buff is, because it's actually really good. He kept using it on his avatar, and it basically made it invulnerable to anything that I did. Freaking obnoxious, man. Okay, where... Well, like, what is making it yellow? Where is it? Okay, the yellow's on my hands. And I don't know how it's on my hands. Erase it off. I bet. That had you watering at the mouth, right? You were in on it. Alright, Farseer. That's the fate dice. So his fate dice trick is you can convert a fate dice to 6. He makes it really, really powerful that way. In your command phase, you can roll 1d6 on a 2+, select one friendly Aldari unit within 12 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next command phase, each time an attack targets that unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. So you subtract 1 from the wound roll into him. It's super powerful. It basically makes it so whoever's fighting him always needs to roll a 6. Because he is toughness 12. There is very little in the game that goes above that. So like las cannons would normally be 4. They're 5s against him. It just makes him very hard to kill because it brackets really well. And then past that, he even reduced... I think he reduces damage he takes. Yeah, this guy halves damage characteristics sent into him. So, like, he's just hyper durable at that point. -1 to wound rolls, having damage characteristics, toughness 12. I think he gets 4+ invul and 2+ save. Yeah, dude, this thing just doesn't die. 14 wounds. It takes you, like, 4 turns to kill it. The trick is trying to keep the Farseer within 12 inches of him, though. So that you have that, like, grid effect of him going somewhere and then killing stuff. But past that, if you're looking for mobility, tanks, and support, I mean, I think they just reduced a bunch of costs on certain vehicle types. But it sounds like you kind of want to lean into like jet bikes, Star Weavers, and stuff like that, which is not often used. Are jet bikes even useful right now? Shroud Runners, Shining Spears. What is the name? Oh, Swooping Hawks. Those are huge. Swooping Hawks you definitely would want. I cannot remember what jet... I think they're called Wind Riders now. Vipers, Void Weavers. There's a lot of really good picks you can take for speed. And they have a lot of really good units for that, too. Taking a Way Leaper Autark is actually a really good idea. Oh, Shroud Runners are the sniper jet bikes. Like, it's weird, right? They have a lot of jet bike options now. Not a lot of people use jet bikes. Understandable. For the points, probably not the best. But you can still get, like, really good mobility vehicles. Like, get a Falcon Grab Tank or something. Deep strike it in with a squad of Fire Dragons on it. Stuff like that. There's weird combos, I guess, is the best way to put it, that you can make for maximizing damage on an Aldari team. Warwalkers as well. Look into Warwalkers. For their points value, they are some of the best things you can possibly take. They're way more durable than you would expect. But honestly, it's a little weird. It's just started 1 Farseer Skyrunner, 20 Guardian Defenders, 3 Warlock Skyrunners, 5 Wraith Guard, 5 Wraith Blades. Wraith Blades aren't bad. If you can toss a Spirit Seer into the Wraith Blade team, that thing can basically go anywhere and just sit on it. Like, you just take it to an objective and just leave them there. Don't even think about them anymore. They're fine where they are. They'll be fine. It took me like 3 turns to wipe out a small squad of Wraith Blades with so much stuff. I attacked them with so much stuff, and they were just like, we don't care, man. Like, I dumped so much melee damage. I think... Oh, I sent a Mauler Fiend into them. Mauler Fiends are spec to kill tanks. Like, real easy. So I figured 5 Wraith Blades would be easy enough. This is, again, the issue I brought up of me not knowing, like, statistical anomalies and variations and stuff for, like, matchup potentials for damage output and things like that. So I assumed a creature meant to absolutely annihilate tanks would annihilate Wraith Blades. I assumed this. I went in, rolled everything out, killed 1, and then immediately died. They hit him so many times with so many lethal hits that it was just over. Yeah, individual models. Like, 5 Wraith Blades and a Spirit Seer is probably good enough as a unit. I don't see people using Skyrunners, like, at all. So, like, I don't know if it's just because of their massive inefficiency. That's always the issue with this game now, is, like, I need to figure out inefficiencies, right? So, like, Farseer Skyrunner can roll 2. So he does... You can reroll hit rolls. That's probably why. Rerolling hit rolls is kind of whatever. He also doesn't get access to, like, any good weaponry for melee or anything like that. Yeah. I love jet bikes, but until the detachment comes out that gives you access to, like, the jet bike detachment, I don't think they're going to be that strong. In your command phase, select one of the following to take effect until the start of your next command phase. Conceal models in this model unit have stealth. Alright. Ranged weapons equipped by those models in this unit have ignore cover. What weapons would that matter with? Destructor? Not really. Although it is Torrent. Actually, maybe Destructor. It's only 12-inch range, though. 18-inch Twin Shurikens. Yeah, I think it would be the Destructor, I guess. They get Assault on their weapons, which is nice. You can advance and shoot. But it's only, like, 1 attack. It is rough. For the points value, 55 per model. I don't know. It doesn't feel like anything they have is strong enough to really warrant the cost or their benefits, really. I guess if you're planning on trying to hide them somewhere. Take a look at the Wind Riders. Shuriken cannons, scatter lasers. So you don't have Wind Riders for any of these squads, though? Oh yeah, what was it called? Siam Han, I think. My buddy had a Siam Han army. It was great. They just go wherever the hell they want, do whatever the hell they want. Or are you running them as a conclave? I guess you're running, because you have 3, you would run them as conclave. I guess with the reroll to hit, alright, so if you're in on the Farseer on the jet bike, if you're in on him, and then while a Farseer model is leading this unit, subtract 1 from the wound rolls, that's actually not bad. That makes him very durable. I don't know if you need more than 2 models, though, for it. Models in this unit have Feel No Pain 4 against Psychic. That's not that great. That's great against Thousand Suns, but not that great against almost anything else. They don't get access to Bright Lances. You need access to Bright Lances, is like a big thing. But, okay, so if you're running the Farseer, he gets the reroll hits. You want to find something that individually attacks way too much. Way too much, which might end up being a knight, right? Like Great Chamois saying. You might want to find yourself a knight that attacks a ton of times, and then you basically just have the Farseer buff that over and over again for rerolls, which would be really nice. Past that point, like I said, War Runners or War Walkers. Let me see if I can find them. No, yeah, it feels that way for me too. The way I used to run Thousand Suns in 5th is so much different than this. Like, I used to run Thousand Suns in 5th where it was like I had 1 or 2 squads of Rubrics, 1 HQ, and then just a ton of tanks because I thought it was hilarious. But now you need a ton of units or else you're missing out on like 80% of your army's ability. So super obnoxious, but you got to do what you got to do, right? But War Walkers, invulnerable saves of 4, saves of 3. They are 110 points. They have scout 9 inches. That's actually huge. And then you just put, I want to say, double Bright Lance on them. Each model can have a shuriken cannon. It is equipped with placed with one of the following, and it's equipped with 2 shuriken cannons. So you basically take 3 War Walkers with double Bright Lance for 110 points each. There's your anti-tank. You just have those things wandering around for fairly cheap. And then you need to lean into, with the Farseer on bikes, something, like we said, maybe a knight that has a ton of attacks so that you just get all your rerolls. And then you have the Wraith Blades. You're going to want at least 1 Spirit Seer. You might need 2. The problem is, once you start getting to that point, you're going to have a lot of leaders. Not a lot of leaders, though. Is the Conclave considered a leader, or is the Conclave considered... Yeah, Warlock Conclave. So they're not leaders. So you have a Farseer leader, you would have a Spirit Seer leader, at least 1, if not 2, because if you're going to run the other Wraith Guard, you're going to want the other ones. Is the Knight considered a character or no? I don't think it is, right? Wraith Knight? No. So that's not a character, so that doesn't matter. So you're not super open for assassination, which is good. You don't really want to be that. You have decent mechanics units. If you can try to fit an Autarch Wayleaper into your army, that's also really good because the Wayleaper is just super useful. He gives you an extra command point, which is just great. People usually put the Phoenix gem on it. That way it's like near impossible to kill. Yeah, so you have the Farseer on bike as a character. You might want to grab 1 or 2 Spirit Seers for your Wraith Guard. Which that's not a lot of characters, which is fine. You don't really necessarily want a lot of characters. Your Farseer on the bike is probably not going to see a lot of combat. Again, I think his whole purpose is to stay near the knight and then keep the knight buff for rerolls. So you might want to look into getting a knight. And go with whatever variant feels good and shoots a lot. That's what I'm starting to discover. Like, anytime you can buff something with a ton of rerolls, you want it to be able to attack so much that it's stupid. Yeah, we also have a community Discord. We have a whole channel on it. Someone just joined. Where we talk about this type of stuff. And that's kind of a great place to, I think, go for it. Because so far we've done okay at not just being like assholes about list building, which is what I'm happy about so far with the community we've built. Because sometimes the list building isn't exactly just about meta, sometimes it is about fun. And you can kind of get some meta in there. Because so many people go to Reddit to look for meta lists. And then, you know, they build it based on seeing the list information from things like, what is it? The Meta Mondays. Like, they'll see the lists on Meta Mondays, and they'll be like, well, that's the list I'm going. And they build it, and they take it to a tournament, and then they lose horribly. They don't know how that list works. And I've done some weird things with my Thousand Suns lists that ended up working against specific players and armies. But then I take it into professional settings. Dude, professional tournaments feel just massively different. They really do just feel massively different. Like, I took one Mutalith. Actually, no, I think I did a double Mutalith Vortex Beast list locally on a casual level just to try it out. And my opponent that I went against, he went first. He was playing Fire Lance. So he had this advantage of going first. He got most of his really good damage units within range of me, like just from being super quick and getting up to my face. And I was like, well, I'm going to lose that Mutalith. And he fired at it, didn't do enough damage to kill it, and then instead rolled like 4 hazardous rolls wrong and lost like most of his big damaging unit turn 1. That was so brutal. And then I took that same list to a tournament, and I couldn't do crap with it. I think at best I killed a Canis Rex in 1 turn. And then immediately lost all of my important units that same turn. It's just so wild, the difference in playing casual into competitive. I'm an okay editor. I edit all right when I have to. Yeah, like, way leapers are just great. A lot of people just take them passively. You don't need to, necessarily. But you do need the ability to, like, send stuff places that you want. Like, I think people use a lot of striking scorpions for that early on because of the infiltrate, or the scout, or whatever they get. I think they get infiltrate. And then in follow-up turns, I've seen a lot of people use warp spiders. I think specifically for deep strike, just to try to capitalize on being in different places on the map. It feels like the gist of how Eldari is supposed to play is that you don't reveal your whole hand turn one. Like, you always have an extra thing you might be able to do, right? And over the course of the 5 turns you have access to, you need to make sure that you're constantly finding ways to churn points for yourself. You need to make sure that stuff gets put where they need to get put so that in your command phase you're able to score. And I feel like a lot of the times what I see out of, like, the high level play, it's really not about killing anymore at that tier. It's just about having so much stuff that comes in and goes, oh, by the way, I get another 10 points this turn. And you can't do anything about it. You can't change it. You can't adjust it. You can't do anything. And it just makes people, like, so disheartened. Because they have to preemptively be in the right position to counter you. And if you get to choose where you're coming in, when, and why, they can't. And that's kind of winning the game via list building, which is something I got to start getting used to. Having a plan with every unit you take and put on the field. Like those Wraith Blades, probably what you should do with them is turn 1, advance them onto a point in middle, and then just sit them there. Find a point that doesn't have a lot of things looking at it, just send your Wraith Blades onto it, and then just sit them there. There's not much people are doing to kill it. They have to put so much firepower into that squad that point is now yours for, like, the whole turn. Like, at least the next 3 turns, honestly. Got one more guy that needs to get painted yellow. And we hit them with that green. That's actually the changes to knights made me potentially want to take the knights again. I was trying to think of a 1,500 point list, but I needed to paint... the stuff that I emergency painted was my cultists. What I needed to emergency paint would have been the missile hats, because I would have taken, I think it was 1 tyrant, and I want to say 7 or 8 total war dogs. And then I think I had room for, like, 1 squad of blue horrors. Just so I could, like, have an infiltrate unit if I wanted to use it, or a deep strike unit if I wanted to use it. The Tyrant is good at that level because he does the anti-deep strike 12-inch thing. It just makes the back line so much easier to control. I think I also took a Stalker. I think the main thing was the Panoply on the Tyrant, and then on the Stalker I took the Mark, or whatever it was, that makes sticky objectives happen. It's like a key thing. But yeah, I guess at that point, list-wise, build around the fact that you have something that gives full hit rerolls, if possible. And maybe snag a Spirit Seer. Try to aim for 2,000 point army, unless, like, what do you have locally to play at? Because 2,000 is the common for tournaments. 3,000 is very uncommon, unless you're trying to play like an escalation style crusade, which that could be cool. I got something like 4,000 points worth of Thousand Suns. I might have 5,000 points of Thousand Suns, honestly. There's a guy near here who has 8,000 points of Space Wolves. He keeps trying to play 8,000 point games. And I keep seeing that and going, oh, that'd be cool. I'd love to go to that. And then he's always like, yeah, it'll start at 8 p.m. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, think about that. Think real hard about what that means. You're going to be watching the sun go up, man. You're going to annihilate your sleep schedule to play an 8,000 point game. My friends and I used to play frickin' games of 40k, like 4 in a day. We would start at noon, and then the sun would be coming up as we were finishing. That's just crazy shit right there, man. Okay. So yeah, as long as you're matching what your friends got, probably fine. No real issues there. Can maybe try for like a crusade game or something. Because that's kind of the fun thing when you're playing with a friend. Play something a little more narrative. Characters can like level up and get cool gear and stuff. At which point, yeah, just, I mean, aim for flavor, I guess. Unless you know that your friend is, like, hard meta. And is going to counter you with just the best possible outcome units. At which point, do it. Tailor to destroy him. Bwah ha 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 ha. Triple abominants. The change to armor strip doesn't change my opinion on the abominants. They honestly need to reduce the cost, though, of armor strip, I think. Space dwarves! Space dwarves are cool. I like this Votan. Votan are fantastic. They're already getting new unit types with the Jaegers. God, I hope the rumor mill is true about an automaton that's Psyker for the Thousand Suns coming up. Because if we're getting a Psyker automaton, that might mean that there is a detachment meant for vehicles in the Thousand Suns Codex, which is exactly what I want. To the point where I'm trying to figure out the dimensions, like the silhouette dimensions of a Defiler. Because I might buy a box of War Dogs and convert them into a single Defiler. Apocalypse tier for 40k? I don't know. All I know is narrative-driven games are weird because they try to make people at the events ally with each other so that you have like multiple people on the field at the same time running units. That way you'll have like the guy who comes with the Warlord Titan or whatever it is, and he'll be on a team with the Chaos Space Marines or something because his is a Chaos Warlord or whatever. And they try to like maximize that crap out. But like general scale of the game, to my understanding, is like within the 1,000 to 2,000 point range. 3,000 gets a little weird. Because that's when you start just getting way too many numbers, right? The sheer weight of the dice you're going to need to roll every round is just insane. I'm actually a little disappointed I didn't decide to go Knights. Knights are, I feel like now that I'm going Thousand Suns at this tournament, I'm going to be all up in my admin brain for like a whole day of just having to think like, oh, I got to do this and this and this, and then on top of that, this. And I'm just going to be stuck in that mode for like the whole day. Whereas Knights are just like, is it time to shoot? Here's my dice. Your turn. Oh, it feels so good to play them. They're so casual.
Poggers.
Poggers? Alright, gotta try to get to the ones behind this one here. Beautiful. I guess if detachment rules kind of go out the window and ally like levels go out the window, I probably could get to 8k because I could bring all my knights. Maybe that's what he does too. I don't know. I could bring all my knights. I could bring my 1,000 Suns. I could bring my demons. And then if I really need to, I could technically attach Vashdor and some Venom Crawlers to the list from the Chaos Space Marines. Maybe the Warp Smiths as well. Depending. I feel like at 8k, you're basically throwing balance out the window. You might as well just go crazy stuff as long as it feels thematic enough. It's so bright. Probably grab the glue that I need and get them all painted up and drop the glue on them. Get them on that stand to dry properly. Behold. What up, Arturo? Trying to call me? No. I feel like we're gonna get... I feel like the detachments are gonna maybe focus on single elements of the court. I don't think we're gonna get like a full tilt. Like there's gonna be something that feels good for warp spiders, there's gonna be something that feels good for fire dragons. I think that's gonna be their focus when the codex comes out. We're just gonna see general rules that are like, oh, that's insanely good for this. Of course, there's going to be bikes. I do think the detachment amount in the Aldari Codex is probably going to be pretty high. It's going to be like definitely one of the top end ones, just because of that. Because there's got to be something. It's either that, or we do get something where there's one detachment that leans more into specialists, like the Craft Worlds? No, that's not what they're called. Well, the overall thing's Craft World. Aspects. There it is. There's the word. That's the word I was looking for. It'll lean into the aspects. There'll be like an aspect-heavy detachment. That would be the big thing. Is if they do that. Because if they do that, then I think I'll be happy. I think, like, in general, I think Rand will be happy if that's the way they go. Oh, there it is. Because it would be, what? There'd be the Aspect one, there would be the Wraith one, or like the Wraith Guard, Wraith Lord, and all that one. There would be the Jet Bikey one. Let me actually do it on this so I don't screw up too much. Ta-da. Ta-da. Well, like, that's the thing. There's a lot of aspects, but I feel like points cost-wise, you're going to want to only pick, like, a couple in that kind of a detachment, right? But yeah, I do think there'll be a Wraith detachment specific. Aspect detachment. Jet Bike detachment. Probably a crossover detachment, like the Inari detachment. And then, best case scenario, Harlequin detachment. I think that's the one Rand actually wants. Is like a proper Harlequin detachment that comes with like cool benefits for being Harlequin. Because that's kind of what his army is right now. He built so many Harlequins, dude. He built and magnetized them in preparation for 9th edition, because Harlequins were actually really cool in 9th because of like the weird benefits to vision that they would like negate. They were really fun. And then for 10th to come out and be like, we're not that worried about it. All right, Andy. Like, that's all he wants, which is honestly why he went Drakari. Literally the way Drakari are built is the way he really wants to play Harlequins. Jump out of transports, mess people up, get back in transports. I don't think there's going to be supplements beyond the norm of what they're getting. I think for the money, the Eldari Codex is going to be really worth it for a lot of people who want to play Eldari, because it's going to give you so many choices. I do really think like the big choice section is going to be that codex. Because I know a lot of people pointed to the Chaos Codex and were like, wow, that's so much. But the reality is it's so much because the side factions don't really seem to have anything going for them. I was able to rotate my collection of Thousand Suns into Chaos Space Marines because of all the new detachment rules. So, like, it gives me the ability to just be like, you know what? I don't want to be stuck with K-Suns right now. I want to play something a little different. So we'll dip into the Chaos Space Marine Codex for now. Which is, you know, super useful. Whereas the Eldari is kind of like the end-all be-all. I don't think they get their own separate books. Yeah, but I think they're trying to move away from just like way too many books and supplements, because there was like weird stuff going on in 8th and 9th respectively, because Armies of Renown was a cool idea, but it kind of also screwed people over, because if I wanted to play the Zangor Army of Renown, I needed a specific book from a specific section of, I want to say, the narrative rules, because it would be usable in tournament play, but it only really existed in narrative. And it had like all of its own command ploys, it had all of its own like adjustments and rules, like values and stuff, and detachment rules and all that. Like, it was a pretty big, crazy shift for Thousand Suns, because I think it dropped the invulnerable save that the Thousand Suns get, but it like gave everything a really good feel no pain. Was just the whole system. Which, when you start getting into like that many books, it's just obnoxious, man. Granted, if the Eldari stuff comes out and then they announce that the Harlequins are going to be their own detachment, I'd be like, oh, they're doing it again. Round 2 of Emperor's Children. One more, and we're technically done the spearhead. Because you only need 3. When I started doing this, I was actually debating trying to airbrush the Fate Skimmer as well. I think we'll do the Fate Skimmer when we do the Oblitz, which, by the way, thanks to the points shift for the balanced data slate, my my Soul Forged are losing, I think, all but one of their Warp Smiths. And I think the way it ended up working was I'm taking a squad of Oblitz purely for mechanics. I'm not super happy about. The alternative was that I get a Defiler. And Defilers are really good in the Vash Soul Forged. They're so stupidly good. That is so many gunshots going into so many units. And then they're actually good at melee. They're basically what you would want Forge Fiends to be. Good at melee and good at ranged. And only for slightly more of a cost. It's fantastic. Oh, I miss my Defilers. But I also don't want to build the new current Defilers because they're not... They're like old. Old, like 5th edition old. That's why I kind of want to make a War Dog based conversion, which will probably make a good hobby video, I think. Could do it as a hobby video. Should be in the info. Ooh, someone making a ballista. I think we have a random channel for memes, right? Yeah, like random posts. Can you see the description? Should be the link to the Discord. Or are you like on a cell phone? Do I actually need to link it to you? Because I know that's a whole thing. I can do it. I can do it in a second. I think I made it so that anyone can make invites to the Discord for now. So like anyone can technically do it. I see someone in the Say Hi channel, so I'm going to assume. The general code, I think, is at the end of the leak. He is in the Discord, though, now. He just popped in. Said hi in the introduction channel. Gave him his rank. I need to rename the ranks. The ranks are old holdover from when I used to just do artwork on this channel. And I had like the creative Twitch, which I got into it back in the heyday when Twitch actually gave a crap about its creatives, until they just threw us all into one channel and then took away our ability to like organize ourselves. And then the art creative channel just became a place for people to go to like sit on camera in bikinis. Dude, Twitch annihilated its creatives. Just over time, all their decision making just ruined so many channels that were growing. Occasionally I'll see people who I knew from that group who used to get like hundreds of viewers. They'll pop in to like stream for a little bit and I'll pop on to see like what they're doing, and they got like 10 viewers. I'm like, oh god, what did they do? What happened? I love the idea that they were like, oh, we'll buy Bob Ross's like entire catalog to just play. Or I think it's the actual group that manages his estate or something. Or that show in general, the brand. We're just like, oh, we'll run a weekend long show where we just run the whole seasons over the weekend. And they were like, that'll bring people in, and all it did was it brought people in specifically to meme in Bob Ross's channel, and then they just go away after a little while. Like, there's no crossover at all. It's ridiculous. God, they ruined that, man. All right. Spearhead Screamers complete. Well, I mean, you didn't make them, did you? That's why the random post channel exists. Find something cool on Reddit. I think I've posted a few memes in the random post channel. Oh, thanks, Arturo. Yep, we're pretty much Spearhead ready. Where I wanted to be. We got a lot more to paint though. 3 more flamers. And a fate skimmer. Dude, this is why I need to see the codex. There's so many units that I have for the Disciples of Tzeentch that prior to all this were just hot garbage. Like, there was no reason to take them. They cost way too much because of the whole summoning thing. The issues therein. It's not that they ruined Bob Ross, it's that they thought Bob Ross was going to help the creative channel that they had destroyed. But they don't realize that when something like that happens, instead of it like reinforcing the channel, like that category, all it does is it serves to funnel people away from like everyone else on that category. So like when Bob Ross is on, there is like no reason as a creative streamer to stream. Because people aren't really going to Bob Ross and then going, ooh, who else is over here? They're going to Bob Ross because they want to sit there. And one of the memes that is pretty consistent on the Bob Ross channel is acting like he's still alive. Talking to him like he's live. Pretending like, oh, why doesn't he talk to chat? Like that kind of stuff. Like, that's the running meme on the Bob Ross channel that I don't think people understand. So yeah, they ruined the category, and then when they tried to fix it, they just screwed it up more. Now there's just no reason really on that channel to be a creative, or that system to be a creative, because the problem became, because of how the culture, the Twitch culture that's basically been put together these past couple of years or decades, I guess at this point, booba is all for the most part. So there were a lot of artists that came into Twitch and they did like genuine like paintings, like good paintings and stuff. No one watched them. And then they were like, you know what? Booba is all. So they started painting basically like etchy type work. And oh my god, the viewership they got off of that was redonkulous. But it technically goes against terms of service to do that. So what would happen is they started getting tons of viewership, tons of income from it, and then Twitch would be like, "Oh, that's cool. We're gonna stop you from getting money now. We're gonna take all the money that you're earning, and we're gonna basically like ban you slightly." So like, oh dude, it was so rough. And then I remember when they changed the rules on like nudity and stuff. But they were so lax on the wording that all the just chatting streamers were like, I'm gonna sit in front of a camera topless. And it was like, whoa. I'm gonna hashtag art it and they can't touch me for it. And it's like, whoa, okay. Whoa, okay. And then they immediately ruined it because they tried to kind of bring that back for the art side of things to get those guys to come back, because they got tons of viewership and got tons of money doing that kind of thing on their channels, and then they got thrown out, and it basically just further killed the whole category. Bad decisions after bad decisions. YouTube's not much better for it, but it's a little better. A little bit. I don't even think I think she did do that when that changed, but she wasn't like the worst. She wasn't the biggest perpetrator of it. There were so many like new up and coming just chatters who were like, this is how I get huge. They saw the gap and were like, yep, this is where we go. This is my entrance to not needing to work a day in my life ever again. right, 4 screamers. Here's the thing. My painting skills are mostly a gimmick. What you're seeing me do is utilizing transparencies that already exist in paint to kind of fake what you're seeing. What you're seeing is 3D. The 3D model is basically the champion here. The way I'm painting it with the certain paints that I'm using, it flows paint on, kind of blends it downward, it seeps to like the lowest points it needs to go. So it creates like faux gradients and stuff, and it's just, I don't know, man. It's almost like it's easy because of the 3D element of the model, which I know there's been a few YouTube channels who have been kind of like, oh, we hate how much detail's on stuff. Yeah, sure. It's definitely disheartening for new players when you get models that are just ridiculously detailed and you're like, what? I have to have this fully painted and ready to go by a tournament? I think I don't want to play this game anymore. And it's like, yeah, I understand. I mean, there's tricks to it. I love doing workarounds and stuff. But like, because of the detail these models have, I'm able to sort of dick around with the paint, and the paint is what makes it look good. Not necessarily the way I apply it, not necessarily my thought process on blendings or anything. It's just because the fluorescent green is so liquidy and it shows up mostly where the yellow is. Basically pre-applying a light layer of yellow is the thing that's making this work. And I didn't even get really detailed with that yellow either. Like, there's a lot of mistakes when you get really close to this. So many mistakes. Oh, the clear chair. I've heard some other streamers memeing on that. I had no idea what that meant. For like the longest time, I was like, why do people keep talking about a clear chair? And then I found out and I was like, oh shit. Because they were making fun of it from the prospect of like chair sponsorships. That would be like a sponsorship you get. It would be one of the brands, like DX Racer's new clear chair. I thought that was funny as shit. The thing is, it's the community that makes it stupid. Like, that's my favorite part about it. Like, I'd love to hate Twitch for doing it, but the reality is they sort of inherited this community in the way that it is. So they have two options. They can try and fix the community, which will most likely lead to them losing all their jobs and then the platform vanishing. Let's be very honest about that. Very open and clear. Or they lean into it and try to find ways legally to allow very close to what their meta is to be able to occur on screen. Like, it's gotten to a point where when people talk about like the gaming side of Twitch, I usually hear them bring up like, oh, well, this is the game we're playing, it's top whatever. They always refer to it as like top 3 or 4 if you don't include just chatting, because just chatting is basically, if you think about it, it's the thing that's keeping Twitch alive. With just the sheer quantity of people going to those channels being like, oh, I can't wait to donate $4 grand today to this person who doesn't even care that I'm alive. Like, the only reason I'm able to watch the GTA RP stuff that I watch is pretty much because of the just chatting e-girls kind of situation. Which is insane. I have. I mean, I started streaming my painting and modeling over on Twitch and literally got like nothing out of it. Dude, I love watching GTA RP. I don't even understand. I got into it because of COVID. That was when the big boom happened for that community, and it's starting to die off. Like the big benefits they were getting from just having so many viewers. Like a lot of people are leaving the viewership of that community because of how life works. You know, they've got bills to pay, things to think about. They need to get like new jobs, stuff like that. But watching that community explode when it did and seeing how it was working, it's so cool because EARP is basically, for us, it's the kids in the hall. It's any of those improv troupes that would try to like run fun little show ideas and skits and stuff. It's SNL. It's that, but for like the newer generation that's more plugged into the internet than anything else. Which is kind of cool. Gotta make sure to grab everything from here that I need this weekend. Pretty much got all the armies and underworld stuff pre-boxed. I gotta make sure I got all the tokens and bits. I got all the dice. Pretty sure I got it all. So I definitely have to take my bag with me. We are almost done here. What time is it? Probably end a little early, that way I can make sure I got everything packed that I need to have packed. I pre-packed most of my armies. I just got to make sure I got the right cards in my bag. I think I do. I also got to figure out if I can pre-print the balanced data slates for some stuff. I remember most of the changes for the Thousand Suns. But there's also going to be an Underworlds tournament. And there was a balanced data slate that occurred shortly after I finished a tournament for that. That actually changed the team I play a lot. Like, I play these guys a lot, and I feel like they get changed every data slate. Which is obnoxious. I'm gonna have to trim the bottom of these. I think the plastic, I think this thing right here. Needs to be trimmed back a little bit. There we go. Yep, I'm gonna need to trim all of them that way. Okay. Glue on. Question. Is the texture paste dry? I don't think it is. It still looks very wet. I don't know. It's wet in some areas. I'm gonna need to leave it to dry some more. So yeah. Reactivate servos. There you go. Very simple. This one might need a little more glue. Let him dry. Boom. 6 Screamers. It is a full-size squad in 40K. I think that is a double reinforced squad in AOS currently. We'll see what changes about that going forward in the new rules. I'll need to finish their base colors. But yeah, they'll be like next to flamer units and stuff. Very similar paint schemes. And the trick is going to be when we paint 40K, and then I don't know how it works in AOS New Edition. This guy right here, there's 2 of them that I'm going to need to paint that kind of fade into this little thing back here. And then he, of course, is his own color scheme. So I am going to have to airbrush. I think the way this is going to pan out is I'm going to try to pre-airbrush these guys. I'm going to then do kind of like a white airbrush hit that goes to yellow maybe, or just straight into yellow, I don't know, in this little patch down here. And then we're going to try to make this guy sort of like a pink to... he's a pink horror, which means we might need to do like an undertone of purple and then pink from above on him. And then we're going to have to basically manually paint this disc of Zinch into being gold. This is going to be a bitch to paint. I didn't even want this. I was like, I don't really care. And then, like, I ordered an Exalted Flamer. And if you get an Exalted Flamer, this isn't that. This is a basic Flamer. But if you get an Exalted Flamer, you also get access to a chariot, and then you can put whatever you want on the chariot, which is normally a Fate Skimmer. Which, in 40K, this is the squad. Fate Skimmer and 6 little can opener screamers. I'm gonna get some pictures, I'm gonna get some videos, I'm gonna post them up, and I'm gonna pack up and get ready to go. Armies are together. I think all my boxes are over there. That's good. Yeah. Do I take my camera? I think I do. Which means I gotta find the charger for it as well. Let me check Amazon, see if my tarot card boxes are here. They are not. Oh, delivered. No, they're here. Yeah, they're here. Okay, I gotta go grab those. Because I am going to be taking all the cards. Because I know they said, hey, we're not going to do Pariah Nexus. But knowing my luck, I'm going to get there and they'll be like, we decided to do Pariah Nexus. I'm going to be like, you assholes, I didn't bring that stuff. So I am going to bring it. But yeah. Thanks for hanging out. No stream tomorrow, of course. We will be at a convention. If you are in the Philly area, definitely swing out. I will have stuff. Oh. Okay. I didn't see that. Sorry, Michael. I use a ton of paint. We can go over that real quick. So for the fluorescent colors, golden high flow, I actually use a lot of golden high flow because I do a lot of airbrush work, and I use golden high flow out of the airbrush. I do have a ton of army painter paints as well as Citadel paints. I occasionally use inks, depending. Like, I use so much stuff, dude. And then I've recently come into contact with SoFlat, another golden brand. Let me, no, down. There we go. I've come into contact with SoFlat, which is a golden brand. It is a very matte, flat type of paint, which I've greatly come to enjoy. I use it mostly on bases with the black, because the black rings you make with that look really good when they dry. But yeah, everything I do is a blend. I start from primer through an airbrush, which I use Stynylrez primer. It's one of my favorites. And then I just go from there. I have a selection of airbrush colors. Specifically, the golden brand is what I use mostly, but I also use Vallejo in some areas, specifically their gold, because I do a lot of gold stuff with like my Thousand Suns. So, boy Bash here, which let me turn up the lighting. My boy Vash is Vallejo Gold, which looks, I love the look of Vallejo Gold. It looks very tempered. Like, it's not like a perfect gold. It's like this weird offshoot gold. It's not quite red. It's not quite orange. It's good. Yeah, golden. So golden has a little bit of a gloss to it, but if you do a varnish over top of it that mattes it down, it's not that big of a deal. And this is the brand Golden High Flow. I'm gonna turn the light down again because white. Golden High Flow. It shows you whether it's opaque or transparent. This is actually pretty good to just use. And you can use almost anything on your models as long as you thin it down enough that it's not that big of a deal. And the reason I like SoFlat, and a lot of people actually use SoFlats now, locally speaking, I know a few people who use SoFlat paint. You don't airbrush with this. Do not airbrush with this. This is not good to airbrush with. There's usually a lot of chemicals that they warn you about through airbrush on this stuff. That's not really that good. But you can apply this. It's pretty thick. I usually water it down a little bit. But it goes on very opaque and very flat, which is really good. And then I lean heavily into things like contrast paints and speed paints. Army Painter has really good speed paints that are pretty cheap that do a lot of really good work. Specifically, key ones you're gonna want is usually like a bone color. That way you can do a base bone on something if you want. All right, Shammy, I'm probably gonna head out soon too. You put down like a base bone and then you do like skeletal horde or any kind of speed paint contrast that's bone related, because what it'll do is it'll yellow the bone a little bit and then in the shadows it'll make it a darker brown. So through experimentation you'll start to find specific contrast paints that are very useful to you. Like for instance on these guys, it's Vallejo Gold base. Let me turn the lighting back up. Vallejo Gold basing. And then I apply contrast paint over top of it. These guys are specifically burgundy. And the reason for that is, let me see if you guys can actually see this. See how it kind of shimmers a little bit? It has like a almost gold color coming out from underneath of it based on where the lighting is. That's because contrast paint is very transparent. So when you spray paint this whole thing gold and then hit contrast over top of it, depending on the way the light is facing on the model, it'll push gold back through the burgundy. So that's kind of a trick that I use. You don't have to use it. You can flat your stuff. That's also perfectly fine. But the application of the burgundy over gold, I think creates some really fun visual aesthetics that you can't really beat in a lot of situations. And then things like this pink, that's a white. You got to get like a good white. That's what everyone looks for, a good white color so that you can go in with a brush when you're done spray painting and correct areas back to white so that you can work contrast over top of them. This is basically a pink contrast over top of white. White, I suggest, if you want to do a very good single application white, Pro-Acryl white. Pro-Acryl white goes on very opaque. It's a one application white. It's a good one. If you have an airbrush and you plan on airbrushing white for OSL, like what we did with this guy's talons here, if you're planning on OSLing like that, I highly suggest Liquitex white, because this stuff, you don't even have to thin it. You just put it in your airbrush and go. I will say, having used it, if I can find it now. So Army Painter has been coming out with a line called Fanatic. It's probably a bit expensive, but it's also, in my opinion, better in a lot of ways than Citadel paints. This. Fanatic paint line. I've used Brigade Gray as a corrective white. It's not perfectly white, but you don't need it to be. This goes on very smooth, very single layer. It's just a solid one application white kind of corrective. And what you see here with all this like bright color and fluorescence, again, that is Golden High Flow. Golden High Flow has a ton of fluorescent paint. You have to go to SoFlat if you want red, but like green, purple, chartreuse, which is basically just highlighter yellow. There's a blue, there's a pink, there's a magenta, there's an orange yellow. If you want things to look like horrifyingly bright, Like there's energy coming from it. That's usually what you want to go. But you don't need to stick with Citadel. You don't have to. A lot of people move around to a ton of different things. A lot of companies sell large collections of their paints. Honestly, what I would say is if you're playing Aldari, pick your color scheme. Be very explicit about the colors you think you need. Just go for those. Don't worry about getting the whole big sets. I have so many Army Painter things to my side here that I haven't even opened in the 2 years that I've owned them. Literally because I'm like, I'm never going to need this blue. I'm never going to need this green. Like, I just don't use them. So pick the colors you think are going to make your color scheme. Go for it. Like, create the process in your head of how you want to apply stuff to what. And just do it. Get those specific colors. But yeah, Vallejo is a solid company for that. Pro Acryl, solid. Army Painter's new stuff, solid. Golden, usable. I would say, again, there's a gloss to this that I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can figure out if there's a way for you to see it. There's like a slight shimmer gloss on the pink. You can kind of see it there. The pink and the blue. Because Golden High Flow is a bit glossy. But what I find is I use Army Painter matte anti-shine varnish. Once you hit this with anti-shine varnish, it flattens it. There's not a lot of shininess to the paint anymore, so it doesn't really bother me that much. But yeah, that's process. That's paints. And I can always answer more on the Discord. You are now part of it. If I don't answer you right away, I'll probably answer you in a bit. I find that for some reason, everyone that asks me questions and joins the Discord happens between the hours of 1 a.m. and 8 a.m., which is when I'm sleeping. So I don't know what that is, but it is what it is. But yeah. Again, thanks for hanging out. I gotta start packing up. I gotta get things together, and I gotta get moving so I can go to a convention tomorrow in Philly if anyone is in the area. I will be there pretty much the whole weekend. Yep, you got it. Till next time, guys. Hopefully we stream next week. We'll see. Later.